All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to the second tutorial of the Tabula Mundi Tarot by MM Meleen. This episode here, we're going to pick up where I left off. The previous video had a discussion about the aces and half of the Major Arcana. So that one was about an hour and a half. And this is the last card that we left off on the previous episode. So I kind of want to pick up where we left off. So take a look at the episode, just in a nutshell, just to bring everyone up to speed. Our aces are all about initiatory energy. It's about cycles and those elements of the wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, how all of those tools and elements influence the direction that we're taking things, a change in perspective, um, a force of new creative energy, also of release, emotionally um, feeling stronger and feeling more open with things, and also feeling um, a sense of groundingness with the coins, the pentacles, where we're putting most of our time in, investing into things that are of great value for us. So that's where the aces came into play. We also talked about the seasons. Now with the Major Arcana, I am doing this backwards. I'm starting with the Universe card, also known as the World, and going backwards to where we're going to end in this episode with the Fool. So I don't want to spend too much talking about what I've already talked about in the previous video, because I want to emphasize the time for the remainder of this Major Arcana. And I want you to pay very close attention, because as I create these episodes are based on my personal experience, what I am interpreting. There are many different ways, of course, that you can read the tarot, by the imagery, its meaning. There is a guidebook that you can buy separate for the Tabula Mundi Tarot. And that will go not into great specifics, but it'll give some insight to the person who's working with this deck. Some information on some of the animals, some of the symbology that was put into the cards, but there's still so much detail with the Tabula Mundi Tarot that there are some things that are left uncovered, undiscussed in the guidebooks. So I'm hoping at some point I could bring Meleen on board, and we can maybe fill in the gaps of, some of the stuff in these cards that isn't really covered in the guidebook. But for now, I'm going to give a very simplistic way to work with this deck. This deck holds a lot of deep imagery, so don't be put off by it if you just don't understand what's going on. You're going to be using your intuition. Okay, that's basically how the tarot works. So with this card here is with Fortune, also known as the Wheel of Fortune. One thing that I didn't point out in the previous episode about this card is I did talk about karma, things are from the past and how it shapes us to where we are now. That I feel is part of the Wheel of Fortune. Jupiter is about luck, abundance, being optimistic, things that are moving forward. But what I like here with this card is we're seeing a lot of energy happening. It's a little bit all over the place. Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a mutable sign. And Sagittarius likes this space just to kind of explore what's there, what's happening in the moment. And that's sort of what we're seeing here. All right. We have a lemur. Of course, we have our guide, the owl. We have the Vajra to use for a tool of guidance and for strength. But also, as you look, we see this energy starting to take shape. We have this snake-shaped hand with a feather that is sort of needling this. It's like it's sort of organizing everything that came from its past, its influences, good or bad, and starting to take shape. It's starting to take form. So this Wheel of Fortune, or this fortune card, in addition to what I've said already about this card, is we're starting to like piece things together. Things are starting to make sense. And when we start understanding aspects of things that we just didn't know because nothing was placed, in order, it starts taking its own sense of personal power. And that's what I like with this card here. That's my interpretation of this. I could take it in many different ways, but use this card of fortune about how you can turn something that may have been of a challenge, turn that challenge into a lesson, and then from that lesson, learn from it and make it something that much more. Make it your own personal fortune, okay? Because that's what Jupiter wants to see. Jupiter wants to see forward movement. How are we advancing in our life in many different ways, okay? So that's in addition to what I had added already about the fortune card. But let's start moving ahead. Okay. The next card we have here is the Hermit, ruled by the sign of Virgo. Okay. And we could see some influences of Virgo here. We usually see a hooded individual. But Meleen makes reference to this hermit going down into the abyss, going into the other world. And that's basically where the hermit is. The hermit is self-reflecting, okay? Ruled by Virgo, okay? Virgo is a sign that is of being of service to others, being there to support people, but also for them, outside of giving themselves to others, they also want to understand. They are very specific, very particular when it comes to things. And I feel that quality, that Virgo quality, needs to be let go of, because when you're doing a form of self-reflection and you're going to just spend time with your soul and just, to sort things out, there really shouldn't be any nitpickiness involving the way that the hermit thinks about things. Okay, our lamp here. This is our inner light. This is what's guiding us. One analogy I say is, the brighter the light, the more that you're connecting and being of acceptance to your own spirituality. If the light is dim, and this is all depicted differently in different cards, this is energy that still needs to be worked on. Okay, and so in this card here, we see the wheat, which is associated with the harvest for the sign of Virgo, which also represents the autumn season. We also see the three-headed dog. These are this dog also represents the underworld. Okay, and this is also the psychopump. The psychopump is the guide that takes you and introduces you to the things that we do not see. So this is all spiritual reflection. Taking this time, slowing down the energy. And because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, it's also a sign of, the intellect. How are we processing the shifts that we are experiencing in this sense of self-discovery, understanding ourselves, finding our light, going inward? For me, the Hermit card is almost the opposing sign, and we see the symbol here for Virgo is Pisces. We have a Pisces-like symbol here. I feel the Hermit is almost, it's like an exoteric version of the moon in Pisces. All right. The moon is the card that is associated with Pisces, and Pisces is all subconscious. It is all esoteric. It is all very deep. And I feel this influence here of this symbol of that we see here of Pisces as that guiding light of the subconscious going into that otherworldly place. And also the moon, we have the reflection of this going here with the moon. It's almost like the sun, right? This is our external part of who we are. But here is the deeper part of ourselves, the moon, the inner self. And this is where we're going through this whole process. Now, the hand here shows up in one of the other cards that I think we will see further down. I cannot recall the symbology of the hand print, but I do know Meleen makes reference to it in the book. But we're also seeing the journey, right? The journey of coming from our mundane world, and when it's time to actually, spend time with ourselves, like doing some self-check work. Okay, so this is what we have here with the Hermit. The Hermit is reflecting the elements of the moon. Excuse me. Reflecting the elements of the moon as part of itself, but also understanding the light that it has within ourselves, the sunlight, the vitality, the inspiration that comes during this journey. Okay, so that's the Hermit. Another thing that I wanted to point out is we have the Hebrew symbols here that make reference to in the Kabbalah, in the Tree of Life, where the Hermit sits in the Tree of Life. Okay, next we have Adjustment. This is normally seen as justice in the tarot, and it's ruled by Libra. Okay, I'm going to speak more about Libra and not so much the Venusian influence that Libra has. We do get to Venus as we get closer towards the end of the beginning of the Major Arcana. But let me just talk about the properties and characteristics of Libra. Now here we see Libra is all about balance. It's all about harmony, primarily relationships that we have with others, and also the relationship we have with ourselves. Okay, everything's fair. Everything wants to be balanced out. Not too much and not too little. It's just right. And so with Libra here, there's this harmony. We see this skater. We see the symbol here for Libra. The skater that's on a sword. This could be like the blade here. And Libra is an air sign. So we have that element of air representing the tool of the sword here. But also the balance. We have the balance of the heart and the mind. The mind is the feather. Okay, and that's something throughout the tarot that we are trying to achieve. We are trying to create harmony between how we feel about things, our intuitiveness, but also our reasoning, our logic, the way that we view things. It's connecting these two together, these two elements, these two power forces together, so that they can work in harmony. This isn't a card of perfection, though. I want to emphasize this. This is all about feeling things out and rationalizing these feelings and just coming to a decision. That's why we have here our ice skater, and we sometimes see with the Justice card, the person's blindfolded. Okay, so by voiding out that sense of sight, everything else becomes heightened. The way that we hear what's happening in the environment or in the situation, the smell, the taste, so on and so forth. This allows us to focus And also, when you think about it, to create a fair decision, because our eyes are no longer making a quick judgment based on what they see. They're going by what they're experiencing at that moment. Okay, and that's where the balance comes in. I like the notes here that Meleen puts in for creating like a harmonious tune, something that flows very nicely. Nothing is off key. Well, it'll be off key a few times. So, we're trying to weigh things out. We're trying to find how much weight we're going to put on one aspect of our foot as we're going through these figure eights. It's just literally weighing things out, but without making that conscious perspective. Everything here is coming out by feel and by experience. So this is a beautiful rendition of adjustment. And the key word is actually apropos, because we are putting a little bit more weight here to balance out some aspect, and then we're shifting the weight a little bit. Okay, and that's with Libra as well. It's also a very, once this balance comes into play, it's something that is very direct. It's something that we feel very certain about. Once we find this balance, there is this sense of, I know this is right. It feels right. It makes sense. It works in the direction that I need it to be in. It's not too overly emotional. It's not too overly thinking. It's just the right amount of energy. All right, Chariot. Okay, we have here the symbol of Cancer. Our Chariot. This is a lighthearted take on the Chariot. We have a surfer. We have the surfer with its cup hanging 10. Well, the cup's hanging 10 in a sense, but not the surfer. And he's being guided, he or she. The figure is being guided by, we see it normally in the Chariot cards, opposing forces, two different colored creatures. It could be tigers, it could be sphinxes. Here in this case, it's horses, black and white. Also, the bit of the horse is also in the shape of the moon. The moon is the luminary that rules Cancer. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Cancer and its influence. It's water. Cancer is feminine energy. It's energy that is very maternal, emotional, almost gut-centric. And what I mean by gut-centric is Cancer rules the stomach. So we hear it from time to time, or we're put in situations that's like, you know what? My gut tells me that this isn't the right thing, but my mind is telling me something else. And that's where you have to start making those choices. The choice that we have here is the balance of the heart and mind. But the choice here is coming from this emotional willpower. It's, in a sense, it's like, okay, let's explore this. Okay, but also taking control of these different forces that are coming to you. Oh, if I go this way, it may not be right. If I go this way, it could be right, but it's a lot of variables. And when you think about a crab doesn't walk straight. It kind of walks sideways and it kind of goes back. It's not really on a direct path. And so that's where that's why the feelings with Cancer, they're ebbing and flowing. They're trying to feel where they're safe, the most safe is that, where their security is. And so they want to do something that emotionally will be protective for them, but also that will allow them to move forward. And so having the surfer here, I mean, in a large body of water like the ocean, anything can happen. But here is the security of trusting trusting the person's willpower. It's like, you know what? Let's just go with this. Okay, I have to take control of this. If I don't do something about the situation, it's not going to benefit. Okay. And so we have the cup here at the base of the surfboard, which is a hang 10. And I like the weight of it. It's stable. It's not showing like it's tilting or anything. We're looking at a sense of self-control here. And also the horses and the surfer's also doing it with one hand, not both hands. So there's a sense of a strong sense of personal self in this card. And this is a reminder, you know, with our feelings and when it comes to trusting our instincts, okay, that we should, you know, listen to them more often, you know. And if we do and it isn't quite what we thought the outcome would be, well, then that's it, right? Okay, we're looking at opposing forces and how we're working with those energies. They may not be perfect all the time, but there are ways that you can start training your instincts, you know, listen to the situation that you're going to. And what I mean by listen is like emotionally feel what's happening and make your judgment from there. Don't feel pressured. This is also, Cancer is also very empathic. Okay, so they really rely on their senses when it comes to going into situations. And the same here, you know, the surfer is going into, it's a body of water, which it understands, but it's not, you know, every area around the world has a different kind of energy with lakes and the ocean and whatnot. It's going to feel different. So you have to start building that confidence and that trust when working in different bodies of water. Bodies of water mean different places of where different emotions are happening. Okay. No two places are alike. Okay. And that's where we have these opposing forces here. How do we take control and manage these different experiences that are happening? All right, our Lovers. We have our symbol here of Gemini. Okay. Before I continue onward, I want you to also be aware that you don't necessarily have to work with this deck and have an understanding, like a full understanding of the Rider-Waite-Smith, because if you rely on the Rider-Waite-Smith meanings or the Doth meanings, when you jump to a deck like this, you'll see some similarities, but I feel that sometimes you become so rigid and you're so used to those meanings and the imagery that we see with decks that we worked with for many months or many years, that when we come to this, you can you sort of lose the perspective of being more open and seeing decks like this and other esoteric decks from a different perspective. So when you work with decks like the Tabula Mundi or the Telos Tarot 777, and even the Doth, you know, just be open, okay? Because that's what a true student is. It's open to seeing something from a different perspective, from a creator's different point of view, okay? So to get back to the Lovers, okay, this is a beautiful rendition. The Lovers, we have the honeycomb here. The honeycomb is a repeating element that shows up in the Tabula Mundi in some cards. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the honeycomb, and when we get to another card, I want you to see the relationship that's happening with this. So we have the background, the honeycomb, and we have the opposing energies, masculine energy, feminine energy. We have used to be the angel Raphael, but here we have a guide. We have someone, and I love this. I just noticed this for the first time. We have the different skin tones. We have the beautiful woman who's black and the gentleman who is white, and we see the understanding of these two different entities. And there is no judgment in this. Everything is merging as one. Gemini isn't another mutable sign. It's an air sign, but it comes from partnerships. Partnerships of Gemini is different from the relationships of Libra, which is also an air sign. Let's talk a little bit about partnerships here. The partnership energy of Gemini is how we are connecting at a intellectual level. You know, you're having a great conversation and it's going good, and that conversation, being like-minded with someone else, is starting to transform. Okay, the energies are starting to mesh between these two souls here, and it's becoming something more. There becomes a love of the conversation, but also something that's moving the heart. Okay, it's drawing you closer. It's like, God, you know, I enjoy communicating with you, but there's something more that's happening. Okay. And we have the snake. This is almost like the Orphic egg, right? This is like the creation, but it's being revealed. We have the snake that's wrapped around this individual who is the guardian, or the sometimes it makes reference to the high priest, the hierophant in this card, showing that this individual has the blessings to give to these two souls. Okay, there's no indifference. This is acceptance of two different energies. I want to bring this back here. Very similar. How do we balance and make use of these energies in the best way possible? This, again, we're talking about self-control and willpower, but this energy from the Chariot to the Lovers is coming more at a communal level. Okay, that's where the partnership comes in. It's the merging of all of these energies. And Gemini is neither masculine or feminine energy. It's actually one. It's of both. So that's another perspective that we see with this card. Here, this is like the honey. This is like the nectar that's dripping from the honeycomb. Honey has a lot of vitality in it. It's, you know, when you eat honey, it's healthy, it's good. It also, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It hydrates us. And so this is another way of this card can be interpreted as this life force, the sweetness of the honey, also the sweetness of the energy that's happening between these two souls. And like we have the sword here, this is also a symbol. Again, we're doing this backwards. So this is going to show up in some of the other cards. Even in the Minor Arcana, we're going to see a representation of the sword when we get into especially the suit of swords. We're going to see one of the cards that has this pretty much same image in it. But we're looking at the power of the mind, how we put that sword down, and how we're not fighting with it or anything. It's like we're putting anything that's of challenge, we're putting it aside. It's not important. It's communicating with the other person at a one-to-one level. Alrighty. Okay, here's our Hierophant. Okay, so the Hierophant, we have our 4 fixed signs here. This is for representing the soul, the man, the person. This is Aquarius, the humanity. The eagle for Scorpio. Okay, for that deep wisdom that comes in with Scorpio, getting to the core, getting to the deepest roots of a situation, or understanding certain things, the knowledge that comes from it. Leo, okay, we got our lion here. And then, of course, Taurus, the bull. These are all our 4 fixed signs. And the key, here we go again with the opposites. But we have silver and gold. And we have the nail here. We have the nail here and the nail here. We also have the Star of David working with this energy as above, so below. This is energy that is constantly moving with the Hierophant. We have the symbol here of Taurus. Okay. So the nail represents a finality towards one's journey. Okay. The Hierophant is the external experience, while the High Priestess, which we'll get to, is the internal. The Hierophant is a worldly archetype, someone who takes experiences from everyday living, travels, communicating with people, taking all of these symbols here, the wisdom, the vitality, the strength, the steadfastness of the bull, things that are of great value. And then also thinking about how it affects the experience that the Hierophant has, how things have influenced at a humanitarian level. Okay, remember Aquarius is the idealist, Scorpio is the impassioned emotions, desire for things, but at an emotional level, desire different from the sign of Aries. Leo, again, courage, strength, moving from the heart. And then, of course, the bull. Okay. Moving at a slow pace, but also being mindful of spending their time and energy the most where things are of great value and importance. The key, silver key, okay? This is inner knowledge. The gold key, external, again, knowledge that we get at a mundane level. This is the Hierophant. The Hierophant understands this. Remember the 4 elements that you see in the Magician? This is also pretty similar to what we see here with the Hierophant. Okay, but we're taking the 4 fixed signs here and what they represent. And again, those experiences of these 4 signs is what shapes the Hierophant, makes it the Hierophant who it is, the person who is the person who expresses the information and the experience that they've had. They have the gold and silver key. They understand that process. Okay. And again, as above, so below. We have this energy that's moving the nail, the final aspect of this energy, sealing this energy, holding it down. The bell for calling upon these forces. We also have the tower that we would see here, like with the High Priestess. We would sometimes see, I cannot remember. I think it's like Boam and Raham. They would be black and white pillars on either side. This is similar, but again, we're working with the influences of these signs of Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. And these are also opposing signs. Opposing sign for Leo is Aquarius. Opposing sign for Taurus is Scorpio. They work together. Earth, air, fire, water. Okay, here's our Emperor. All right, Emperor ruled by Aries. This is our symbol for Aries. This is a very interesting interpretation because with Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet Mars. So we're looking at a lot of moving forward energy, getting things going, initiating this energy, similar to like the aces, for like the Ace of Wands. But this energy here with this Emperor, he's seated, but he's not seated in the way that we normally see him. with the leg crossed, forming the shape of a 4. Another thing too, as you may have noticed, the Major Arcana is not numbered. So we are looking at measured. We have a compass, we have a ruler. This energy, this of the Emperor, is becoming more of planning. It's almost becoming a little bit more of the energy of being more not articulate, but being more specific, being planning, being careful where we're placing our energy and where this energy is going to be led towards. Okay, everything's like measured by measured. We have the wall here, which is in squares. It has different shapes in it, so we can see the structure of the Emperor, like planning, thinking. This is more, this card here for me, even as I'm seeing it now, is looking at what happens before the Emperor actually does something, or like almost going into the mind of the Emperor. We see his head down, and it looks like he's carefully thinking, where to best put all of his skills and energy towards. Very meticulous. Okay, we have here like a bell-shaped beehive. This is going to be something very important, because you're going to see the card that's coming right before this, its relationship. We have the Empress. All right, so Mars, Venus energy. Okay, remember the Lovers? Okay, I want to bring this together here so that you could see. Let me move this over and I'll talk okay, see this relationship that's happening here. Let me move this over a little bit more. Sorry, the lighting is just one-sided here. Okay. Remember, it's the meeting of opposing energies, but becoming like-minded, masculine, feminine energy. This is what we're seeing here. But this is, again, we're going backwards. So we're seeing how things have developed, how things have come to shape to the end of the Universe card and to where the Fool is. Okay. So the Empress, look at the heart. Here's the honey. It's where the love comes from. Person who takes care of the land. Here's our sheaves of wheat. We have our bee, right? The bee that makes the honeycomb. But what I really wanted to pay attention to here, and also we have the phase of the moon, is her heart, the chambers of the heart. We see a larger version of this here, so we can see the detail of it. What makes the heart sweet. This interpretation here for the Empress is coming more from the environment, taking care, this is someone who is very natural, someone who is very connected to things that are real, things that are of nature base. Venus is of beauty, things of natural beauty, things of self-care, pampering, if you will. But all of that care is what makes the Empress who she is. Someone that you can feel comfortable with, someone that you can talk to, someone that you know that has the strength, and the strength is coming from here, from the heart. And that heart, the honey that we see here, it gets inspired by the environment. It's the connection to with the feminine energy of our moon, the moon phases that we have here. From new moon to waxing to full to waning, and again the cycles again. The Empress is the prime feminine energy of nature, and knowing its power that nature has, and how you can use that as an influence to shape you at a deeper level. Okay, so this is I like to call this card the woman of the land, the Empress. Here we go with the heart again. Okay, remember we're going backwards, and here's the black and white pillars. I want to show in contrast here. Okay, I like this here. We have this pillar here that is dark, so, and it's showing the crescent moon. So we're looking at the deeper aspects of ourselves. While here we have the gray. We can say this represents the sun, the masculine energy, fiery energy, water energy, how we are working with those elements. Okay, the high priestess is ruled by the moon. Okay, and I feel these two are the same. I said earlier that the Hierophant is the external aspect of the high priestess. This is this energy inside the Hierophant. And it takes the secrets, it takes the knowledge, it takes the keys of that deep knowledge of and knowing what makes an individual who it is, and takes it and shares again the experience. It takes everything that's learned inside, internally, and explores the world with that experience, and takes and shares what it's gained at an external level. It shares it, being the Hierophant, shares its lessons with others. It's the teacher. Okay, but to go back here, again, we have the heart. The heart is flowing. This is the high priestess, and this is what really fuels the energy. This is what we see in here. Okay, similar pose. The image is a little bit larger here, but we're seeing this energy flowing inside of the Empress. Okay, understanding the conscious and the subconscious, the worldly and the unworldly, and feeling all of those experiences. The priestess here is completely enveloped with the flow of the water, how it rushes over, how it slows down, and how it rushes again. But look very carefully. While all this water is influencing the high priestess, she has still one toe touching the water. She's still keeping still, and yet all this energy of feelings, intuition is just enveloping her, but she's still in control. She understands that she's going with the flow. And we're seeing the growth that's happening, the connectedness of the heart with these elements of the conscious and the subconscious. This is the secret. All right, so we're winding down here. So here is our magician, the magus. Very different interpretation. Okay, we have the magus as a DJ. When I first saw this deck and I saw some of these cards, I really wasn't keen on some of the imagery, and this was definitely one of them. And I'm not scared to say that, but I have grown to understand, in the context of this deck, the power of the magician, of the magus. Okay, here, remember, with the magician, we always see the 4 tools. Turntable here is, and it's grounded, if you will, pentacles, coins. We have our sword here. I'm going to have to start looking for some of the other elements. We have our swords here. Also the cups, which is nice. We have the water, the water here, the hand coming out of the cup, holding the sword, and it has the symbol of Mercury on it. Yeah, move a little closer so you could see that. And then we have this circle here. I'm trying to recall, I believe she made reference to this because there is a connectiveness. The Magus is also the follow-up for our Fool. So we're seeing what the experience of the Fool is going through. The Fool is shape-shifting. I almost want to say that I feel the Fool is not so much meeting the Magician, but I think is taking the role of the Magician, is giving the opportunity to work with these different tools, you know, and how are you communicating with them? The Magician is the master. You need to know how you're working with these elements and these tools in a way so that you can have complete control over these tools, over these elements, so that people can learn from that and gain the experience. The other thing too with the Magician, and some of you already know this, the Magus, the Magician, is also known as the trickster. Okay, so for someone who knows and is very is on top of their game, and there's a sense of power, they can, you know, they can go into a situation and use their strength, their knowledge, their power to overtake something else. It could be deceitful. That's the other thing with the sign of Mercury, which this is here. The Hermes, Mercury, is the deliverer, the messenger of news. It's very quick, it's very fast. And that's where the trickery of the Magician can come in, the sleight of hand. You weren't watching the Magician carefully and they pulled something, okay? That's the power that the Magus and the Magician has. You have to watch that sleight of hand. The sleight of hand that can come with the emotions, the sleight of hand that could come with the actions that the person takes, the sleight of hand and the way that they deal with their resources, all of those things, okay? That's what the master is. That's what the Magus is all about, okay? It's the way of communicating. So this energy, there is a lot happening, and it is very mercurial because of the expediency that I feel with this card. It's out in the cosmos, which deals with the higher intellect, how we communicate in these realms. Here we see the Magician holding, or the Magus holding, that looks like to be like the Milky Way, you know, having that power and that control. But everything is changing. Everything, the energy that you're putting in also comes out the same way. That's the one way that we can see with this card of the Magus. Okay, our last card. Here is our Fool. This is the beginning and the end, depending on how you want to use this card with the Major Arcana. So I have mentioned, I'm going to bring this card back so you can see it side by side. I have mentioned that the Magician, or the Magus, I feel for me, is the Fool jumping into this role and playing, exploring, just seeing what it's like to come and hold all of these different influences. Okay, the Fool is ruled by Uranus, planet of technology, of sudden changes, advancements. With the Fool here, knowing the element of air, this is all of exploration. This is like no holds barred. I want to go back to the world card here, or the universe. Apologies if I keep going back to saying the magician instead of the magus. I want you to look at this. Okay. Here's the pool. Here's the whirlpool. Okay, we usually see the fool jumping, not jumping, but about to step off a cliff. Here, this fool is just looking straight ahead, but about to go down a vortex. We have the water, we have the fire, we have all these different elements. We have transformation that we see that's flying around. Instead of the dog, we have the cat, we have the lion, we have the snake, we have all of these energies that are going to be showing up throughout the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. Okay, this is the beginning of the journey. Again, this is the cycle. All right, and we have, I'm going to move this closely so you can see here. The tattoos are covered with Mercury. We have sulfur, we have salt, we have the sun over the heart. Okay, it's like you're wearing your experience on your skin, or what you would like to learn more about here. And also very reptilian pants that the fool is wearing. It's like we are seeing this transformation, like this is part of his skin, this is part of the journey that will transform, be released. Also, I want to show very quickly, I want to show you the death card, because when I see this card in particular, let's see here, because I'm going backwards. Whoops, bear with me here. Here we go. Okay. Look at this. All right. And this is part way into the journey of the Major Arcana. We're at Scorpio. So we could see, and also look, the transformation of the Joker's hat. It becomes something that is a little bit more regal, something that has been earned. I almost want to say like a knowledgeable dunce cap. We are seeing the shedding of all of this down to the bones with the death card. Okay, so when you work with this deck, you know, as I've been showing some other cards that are reminiscent for me of the journey of this, keep in mind, because they do relate to each other. Okay, and with the Telos Tarot, not Telos, the Tabula Mundi Tarot, and also the Telos Tarot, but more so with this deck, you are going to see some repeating imagery. Okay, remember the honeycomb, all right, that we saw with the High Priestess and the Empress. Okay, remember again, I'm going backwards. I'm going from the universe all the way to the Fool. So we're seeing how things have developed when going through the Major Arcana for this tutorial. And I think it's important to see things backwards as well. And I have noticed that there have been a few esoteric decks that they do seem to put like the court cards in a different order, maybe king, queen, knight, page, or princess. They tend to go backwards, and I think that's very very important, so you could see the development of how things came from the end to the beginning. All right, so I feel when you work with this deck to do that, look at some of the key things that are showing up in the cards that may be in another suit, and how do those cards relate to each other, especially with the decans. And we're in the time of the year that people are starting to do their decan walks. You know, we're going into Aries for Western astrology, and sidereal, we're doing Pisces to represent the energy of spring. So I'm going to leave you with that. Any questions, any comments that you may have regarding this, please let me know. You can email me, send me your thoughts in the comments. So that's it. So we're done with the Major Arcana, and I don't mean it like that's it, but we're done with that first part, the Aces and the Major Arcana. And I'm either going to start, and I probably will, I'll probably just continue on and just work with the Minor Arcana. And I'll break those up into suits. So I'll probably do them in the order of cups or wands, cups, and then maybe swords, pentacles, or I may do the videos where the elements are like wands, swords, and cups, pentacles, to work with their elements, the complementary elements. And then we'll have the court cards. I think I may end it with the court cards, but I'm not certain just yet. So if you are interested in maybe doing an online discussion about the Tabula Mundi, like if you have this deck and you want to do a live, let me know. Okay, because I have this that I want to work through, and then I have to go through the Telos Tarot. I'm going to see about doing a tutorial. I think once you have an understanding of this deck, the Tabula Mundi, I think the Telos Tarot will probably work well. But the imagery that I've noticed with the Telos Tarot is softer. The energy is quite different of that deck versus this one. This one is just jumping right in. There's a lot of symbology in this deck of the Tabula Mundi, while the Telos Tarot, I feel, we're starting to see more of a human representation in that deck, and not so much more symbolic like we see here. It's not good. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that there's a different kind of connection that I'm seeing with this deck versus that one. All right, so there's some food for thought. If you have any questions, again, just let me know. I will be posting the follow-up for this, the Minor Arcana, as soon as I can. I kind of want to put this out here. I want to get this out so I could get feedback from individuals and see where to go after I'm done going through the Tabula Mundi Tarot. All right, have a wonderful week. Happy spring, everyone. I highly encourage you to start doing the decan walks, especially if you have this deck or any of Meleen's decks. See about doing the decan walk with this deck or any other esoteric deck that has reference to the planets and the signs. Alrighty, I will see you all again soon.